it's best to not delve too much into content because most of the questions are like breaking down the questions and figuring out what order and all of that. But I seem to disagree with that because if I don't know the content, that's going to take away from points that I could get. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. So the biggest thing that I can suggest at this point is to listen to yourself and not anyone else. Meaning, you're going to have people that are telling you to not do content. You're going to have people that tell you to do too much content. You're going to tell people to only practice analysis and stuff like that. So this prep needs to be tailored to what you think. And if something doesn't settle with you, don't listen to it, honestly, because it's just going to make you second guess and or just be disclosed off from any information type deal, you know? Like,
Okay.
so you're going to have a lot of people influencing you, honestly. Like at this time, there's like 40 people in the study group. There's probably 40 different opinions of how people are studying that are going to tell Kim how to study. Honestly, they're going to tell you, this is how you should study. And the only person that you should be listening to how you should study is yourself.
Okay.
Because you're going to have a lot of people in your ear. And those people are going to be in your ear, but they're not going to be in the exam room taking your test for you.
Pretty much. Yes. I agree.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I stand up with this. Yes, I help people prepare, but those that have worked with me and those that have been like rocking with me for a long time know that I don't really ever suggest anything direct unless it's like immediate change. Like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm just not going to study at all and walk in the exam. Okay, you can try that, but maybe we should have a little plan behind it. But whatever you're comfortable with and calm with, that's going to lead you to be way better on the exam than if you walk in saying, man, I should have done this or I should have done that. That's where regrets come in.
Right.
And we need to have you walk into the exam room with the least amount of regrets and the most amount of confidence.
Okay.
So that's what I would say. You'll have a lot of people, trust me, a lot of people, but not a lot of people around when it doesn't go well. They'll say you should have done more. You'll never have someone that, if you say you failed, say, I was wrong. You won't. You really won't. So you need to be surrounding yourself with people that tell you the things that align with you.
Okay.
Yep. Good question, though. A lot of people experience that, honestly. But I feel like I may be the only person that tells it to straight of like, whatever works. Like, I'm not going to try and sell you. I'm not going to try to do anything. Like, what works for you, works for you. Same thing with a client. You tailor everything specific to that person. You wouldn't just generalize and say you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. How long would you say what's the longest amount of time someone should study?
So that, again, it's person to person. I study 2 weeks. I've worked with people that have studied 3 months. I've worked with people that studied 6. It all depends on your factors. Like, I would sit down and say, what do I have currently going on in my life stress-wise? How much sacrifice am I willing to give at this moment? And what would be appropriate for me? I have people that I work with, they study 3 hours every single day. Personally, that'd drive me insane. You can't even get me to sit down for 3 hours, let alone read something for 3 hours. But if it's something I enjoy, like doing a study group, shoot, I've been tutoring since 4 p.m. and I'm not fatigued off it because I love it. But other people might be like, man, that's too much. From whose eyes?
Right.
From their eyes, and they're not taking my test. So that's where you have to be honest with yourself. My biggest suggestion, though, is to set an exam date that you're comfortable with, so that way you do have a target in sight.
Okay.
A lot of people I run into will say, I'm going to take my exam, it's February 2nd? They're going to say end of March. And they don't schedule it, and they start looking to schedule their exam March 1, and they might not get until April, second week of April. So
Right.
their entire prep is just, you'll have people like, oh my God, I wasted all of this stuff. But when you have a target, it's easier to say, okay, I have this amount of time. This is how much time I can dedicate. But my suggestion, and you'll get a suggestion out of me. Well done. is have a select number of hours you want to do per week, not a set number of time per day.
Hmm.
Life happens. You're going to have days where you get out of the office or with your family or something happen, and you're going to say, I look at that book and I'm not going to retain anything. Good. Take a day off. Just make sure you titrate. Let's say you lose an hour, 15 minutes over 4 days, and you have it back
Right.
with less stress and less pressure, like a gun's on your head, like, do it. You know what I mean? Like the people that I work with, they probably have experienced the least amount of stress that they've ever had in their life, honestly. Because I just suggest self-care. I suggest taking days off. I suggest doing things that you actually enjoy. Like somebody today was like, man, there's a family function and I need to make sure I get my studying in, but I know we're going to be playing games and stuff. Play the games. Honestly, play the games. Like studying's not that serious. It's not that deep. Like you don't study for a second, you'll be all right. I promise.
Yeah, I agree.
But most people are like, man, you have to, man. You didn't study today. You might fail. All right. With that anxiety, you might be walking someone off the cliff anyway. So you might as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, that's my suggestion to you is to be kind to yourself throughout this journey and do what you feel is right, you know, because you're
Okay.
gonna, like I said, you're gonna have a lot of people. You're gonna have a lot of people, like people that tutor, people that do this, that say you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. All right, maybe that worked for you, but if that person fails, you need to take accountability for those suggestions as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's just what I would say, that to sit down with yourself and say, like, this is what's going on and this is where I want to be. So is this the right time?
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. So we have hang on. I need to make sure I need to catch up on the chat. Sorry guys. Oh, so I'm not far behind. Can you share on the family theory? So question, a child is brought to a family to a social worker because of poor relationships and preoccupation with sexual matters. During the first meeting, the parent reported that the child is unusually close relationships with grandmother. She's very protective of him, lets him stay up at night. Lets him stay up, I'm just assuming stay up at night longer than his siblings. It allows him to sleep with her. Given these circumstances, the social worker should first, okay, so it's kind of chalky, but let's see. Child brought in by his parents, disconnected. Child is close to grandma. Grandma babies, like, gives him privileges and sleeps with him. So what should you consider first? Inconsistent intergenerational conflict, scapegoating, incest. Yikes. I wouldn't say scapegoating because the kid's not being used as like a way to gain. Um, so it's tricky because grandma's doing this stuff. So this question's asking, parents think there's a concern of that this grandma's doing extra stuff and there's preoccupation with sexual matters. It's incest, let's be real. All right. Hi Phil. I attempted the ASWB exam today and I feel bummed. My exam is Monday. I realized that the knowledge of content wasn't even needed much. It was tricky and asked me to think and think. So I'm thinking between tonight and tomorrow, I just need to do questions. I'm trying not to freak out. I'm just tired and want this over and done. Okay. The person that sent that message, give a little more insight. I don't know if you just need to process that or if you're asking me what I think. Can you explain how to pick what questions, recall, application, etc.? Yeah, I just had this discussion with somebody earlier, honestly. So I guess if you're using a prep programs, they may explain it differently than I do. However, I say recall questions are, and for my visual people, I'll type it out. Let me, whoops. That shared. Okay. Come on. Okay. So with that, system's going kind of slow. Okay. So recall questions that ask, that's too big for me. Ask for particular social work terms, concepts, or theories. They generally ask for a specific answer, i.e., Freudian theory, PJ, Kohlberg's. We also have like abuse report, no, yeah, or abuse reporting, etc. So in very minute, all of the information you feel you need to know. Well, that's tricky. Beep. Let me tap it down. And then we have application. And this is applying social work terms, concepts, theories, and ideologies to particular clinical situations. Often will be presented through client case analysis, i.e., person has depression, lost their job, wants to go back to school, and is drinking alcohol. What should you do first? Type questions. So those are our bread and butters. We'll see that all the time. Like, what should we do in this situation? Oh, I'm not sure. All right. And the reasoning questions are, and then reasoning questions, and I'll make it all smaller so it's on the same page. I just need to type it up. So reasoning are where you come up with a solution to a problem, i.e., ethical dilemmas, research, program development / evaluation, clinical consideration. All right, so those are the type of questions that how I break it down. Like I said, if you're using somebody else or using different ideologies, it's makes things a little more tricky, and that's it on the same page. Whoops. Recall questions that ask for particular social work terms, concepts, or theories, generally ask for a specific answer. Application applying specific social work terms, concepts, and theories, and then reasoning coming up with a solution to a problem. So that's how I would break it down and explain it. And remember, application questions can use the acronym if that is something you are utilizing. However, you don't have to. So yeah, that's how I'd break that down. So next question. So I graduated in 2015 with my MSW and the test wasn't required for my job. Okay. So I really got to studying everything to retain information. So trying to see what I need to do in order to get prepared for the exam. So that is where you have to sit down and see what you know and what you don't know and where you sit. Meaning, like if you were here prior, Kim's question was, what should I do with this? Should I study the information? Should I not study a lot of information? Should I do practice questions? Should I not do practice questions only? So that depends on which style you utilize and how well you can navigate questions. So it's hard to generalize with that minimal amount of information, honestly. But if you provide a little more insight, I can give it. But someone graduated in 2015 doesn't give me a whole lot of indicator, you know, because not all programs are created equal as well. I think you currently have a hard time using your acronym because I've never got the type of question correct. I love your acronym. What are the acronyms that we should make sure to remember for the exam? So Kathy, I only recommend one of them, because all of the other ones kind of can divert people down the wrong path. Like one of them is aspirins, but it puts protect life fourth, I think. So kind of puts people a little uneasy when they're like, wow, this should be higher up, and it's not. Do you know how many versions of the test? I don't know the exact number, but the number of answers correct that I've heard are 96, 98, 99, 100, 103, and 106. So 6 versions that I've heard of. But remember, I don't know everything. It all depends on, and I guess I could allude to that as well. The number of questions you have to get correct is how difficult your exam is. So the lower amount of number that you need to get correct is the more difficult exam. And how they quantify difficulty and not difficult, I don't know. Each question, I wish it told you like how, but you don't know which version you get until you hit submit anyhow. So I wouldn't get hung up on too much on the semantics of it. Like what I tell people is develop a routine, walk through what you think is comfortable and knowledgeable, and then you'll walk out victorious most likely. I receive accommodations in college, however, I do not have health insurance and was told I need a doctor. Is there any way around a doctor to get accommodations? That I don't know of. I would call your licensing board. However, if you don't have insurance, I would look at your income. You may be able to apply for Medicaid, and if not, you can walk into a free clinic, explain, and go from there. But that is a difficult spot to be in of what it looks like of not having insurance. Got a question. Which, Phil, could you please increase the volume on your end? Because it does not increase from my end. Is that better? Or was it affecting other people? Or no? Because it's like picking up a lot of end. I think it's better. No. Fine for me. I was gonna say it's on my end. It says I'm spitting out quite a bit of frequency, so I'm not sure. Take the form and see if the doctor will fill it out. I think it's better. I failed the exam twice. I believe if I had accommodations, might have passed. Yes. If you feel like you need accommodations, roll with it and get it. But my biggest thing is like if you have insurance, you can go to free clinics. You can go to like different agencies. There might be like a community mental health psychiatrist, especially if you're going in for anxiety. You want to be assessed by like professional. If it's like a health condition, you might even be able to go into an emergency room and see if they have an assistance there, stuff like that. But that's a difficult spot to be in, Barbara. But then again, I don't know what state you're in, so I can't really coordinate and help out in that realm. So I apologize for that. Can you break down the acronym you use? Yeah.
Phil, I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Linda. First, I want to address the special accommodations. I took the test a few years ago and got special accommodations from my doctor because of anxiety. I still didn't pass. And I think it was because I didn't know how to view the questions. I had an extra hour and a private room where they wouldn't close the door. This time, my doctor gave me a letter and I had to submit that to the board. I have special accommodations again, but they only extended me an hour, but I did not get the special room. So I think my strategy is a little different this time.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm looking to pass this time. But my question was, when you are, is there a way that you can provide how to learn or study for the recalls? Because I'm seeing that it's just so much material, and I'm feeling overwhelmed because to memorize the medications, memorize the DSM, memorize theories, um, defense mechanisms, etc. And I'm thinking those may be more of the recalls. To get those correctly, you have a better chance. Is there a way or a better way you could think of to try and help us?
Break them, break down the information.
Or is there some way we could either gather something that would help with the recall, because it's so much? Did that make sense?
Yes. So how does someone conceptualize the possible recall questions on the exam? Is that what you were saying?
Well, I know we won't know what
Mhm.
they are, but for example, there's a lot of information in the DSM-5, and I was just going over your DSM information, and I'm putting it on a sheet of paper, like I saw someone on the Facebook link.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it on index cards. It's just so much that I can't pretty much retain it without memorizing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a lot of material. Like if I take all the theories and the ages, and take Erickson and Freud, and have to remember their ages, have to remember each one, as well as learn the technique on how to answer the questions. So I'm just asking, is there a suggestion on how to better get that recall information?
Yes. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood, because that's a big question. Because honestly, I don't think there's a perfect answer to that. However, if you have information, the best thing to do is not to memorize the ages, because when I work with people, I have them just pick up on things that are easy to remember and figure out what is possibly happening. Meaning, let's say I'm working on PJ.
Mm-hmm.
I would need to know the different stages that you would go through, right?
Right.
So we'd need to know what's pre-operational, what's concrete,
Mm-hmm.
what's formal,
Mm-hmm.
etc., right?
Right.
So I would normally take 1 or 2 days to sit down and dissect the theory, but you don't have to know everything about it. This isn't like an exam, meaning for like a collegiate level exam where you need to be able to like, all right, here's the stages of, let's say, psychosexual by Freud, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to know oral, anal, phallic, latent, genital. The ages are entirely important as long as you know the order and what stuff's going on in that. So to break that down kind of easily, right? So oral, what do you think oral would be? What do you think of when you hear that?
An infant.
Yes. So when you think about a baby, you put anything near its mouth, it's going to have a sucking sensation. So that's what the oral is going to be when they need to get their needs met based on that. So that's what that stage is. They basically just start building connections based on needs and via their mouth. And then the anal is where they start learning how to potty train. Whether they were potty trained in a comforted environment or maladaptive environment will dictate that.
So
So
that would also dictate how they will end up as an adult. So you have to
possibly.
connect what happens with them as an infant, and if they don't, that fixation, then how it would be as an adult. So you still got to know.
Yes, but not to the level of like most people think,
Okay.
where they're like, well, you've been a part of one of my study groups. I don't go super in depth, but I just give it and deliver it in a way that people can like understand. But
Mm-hmm.
to get hung up on like huge amounts of information, it's okay not to know. That is my biggest push to people, is like, it's okay not to know, because sometimes knowing too much information is not good.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's one of your tips, not to be overwhelmed.
Which
So,
is okay. So the way that, let me get this back in. The way that I would suggest people study the content is to make it manageable for you. Like memorizing the DSM. You don't need to memorize it. What I suggest people, when they crack open that DSM that's like 500 pages, separate it by disorder. So our depressive disorders: major depressive disorder, persistent depressive disorder. Only 2 of them.
mm-hmm.
How long do you have to have MDD before it's diagnosable?
2 weeks.
Okay. What's persistent depressive disorder?
Is that the one that is up to a year?
Mm-mm.
1 month?
No.
Oh, you said, what is it?
So hang on here. So
Okay.
major depressive disorder is 2 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You already have the number 2. You had the years right. How many years do you have to have persistent before you can diagnose it?
2 years for
See?
adults and 1 for a child.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's how I'd memorize the depressives. Okay, 2 weeks, 2 years. All right, boom. If the depressive symptoms are not 2 years, it's MDD.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So like getting yourself around it. And the same thing with anxiety disorders. Generalized anxiety disorder. How long would you need that?
Gosh, I just wrote that down.
I was going to say, not to quiz you. I'm
6
sorry.
months.
6 months.
Okay.
How long does someone have to have social anxiety before you can diagnose it?
6 months.
Exactly.
So a lot of them are 6 months.
That's what I mean. Like, separate it into disorders and be like, okay, if they're anxious in social situations, then it's been 6 months. Social anxiety. This person's, it's been 6 months and they're anxious about everything in general. What do you think they have?
Generalized.
See? You know what I mean? Like, people, like, just take it slow. Just find ways that you can remember it. Like, and a fun fact, this is going to be crazy for people to know. I don't even own a DSM at this moment. Like, I haven't owned a DSM since graduation.
Hmm.
I've borrowed a DSM from a coworker to do a study group, but I just don't own one. And that's just me being transparent. Like, I diagnose people every day too. So it's just, I found ways to manage with minimal resources. Like, and that's what I tell people, less is more. You don't need to have the whole spice cupboard to make some soup. You just throw a little bit here, a little bit there. That works for me. That works for me. Tastes good to me. All right, let's get this thing. You know what I mean? Like,
So is it better to have just a brief understanding of a lot instead of going in depth about a little?
so that I can't answer because everyone's exam is so different. My suggestion, if I was in your shoes, because I was in your guys' shoes like a year and a half ago, right? Maybe 2 years now. Year and a half, let's be real. But I personally sat down and was like, Phil, what do you know? Okay, I'm very good at test taking. All right, let's find a strategy that would work. I found the acronym, and this at this point it didn't have the S on top because I was the one that added that. But I was just like, okay, we'll utilize this and figure it out. Somebody gave me some practice questions, and I was like, okay, let's see if we can work this in. Worked it in, and I was like, this works. But to answer your question, like, yes, you want to be like an inch deep and a mile wide, but you also want to be a mile deep and an inch wide, depending on your exam. Because there's people that are like studying like tardive dyskinesia, and they might not even get that on their exam, but they're like, man, I was ready for it. Or they might be ready for like Freudian theory, and they might not get any of it, you know? So I wouldn't say any information is bad information, but if it doesn't sit with you, I wouldn't say harp on it. I would say, okay, if I encounter this, I'm probably going to take a question wrong on the exam. But depending on the version I get, let's say I get the 106, I arguably can get 44 questions wrong and I'm all right and pass. Which 44 I'm going to get wrong? I'm not sure. But I'm going to give myself the grace to get 44 wrong and still get them right. So I'm going to go give it my best and give it my shot, you know? So like when I took my exam, I was like, all right, Phil, you're a structure guy. You need some structure in your life. Because if you don't, you go wild. So I literally told myself, you're going to show up an hour early to that exam room. I was like, man, you don't need that. Do it. Why? Anxiety was killed from the get-go. I was like, okay, I'm already in the exam room. They could show up 2 hours late and I'm still here ready to take my exam. Put my stuff in the locker, did my palm prints, took my picture like, hey, because I expected it. I knew what to do. I wasn't like confused, but then I put my stuff in the locker. I was confused that I literally couldn't bring anything in because a lot of people are like, man, you should bring a snack, you should bring this. But I was like, cut it. We're not going to be worried about that. Walked in the exam room. I knew the tutorial was coming. Sat down and was like, okay, let's give it a rip. Wrote down the acronym, pushed the notepad aside, didn't look at it at all, just made me feel better. And then halfway point, I was like, Phil, you're taking a break. You know you can't focus for longer than this amount of time. Get up. So then I walked to the bathroom. Conveniently, I don't suggest everyone do this, but for me, I was like, okay, walk there, walk back, and was like, we can finish this thing. So then I did. Walked in, fresh mindset, took another break before I submitted it, and told myself, Phil, you did the best thing that you could. You're not changing any of these answers. You just need this moment to reflect on where you came and where you're going. And if you have to retake it, 90 days is a short time, my friend. Walked in, submitted it, almost got kicked out because I was fist pumping. I didn't almost get kicked out, but I felt like it because I was like, but then I was like, I did the routine. There was no anxiety. I did the routine. I predicted what was going to happen. I took a break at the halfway point, took a break at the end point, didn't change any of my answers unless God himself came down and was like, man, you should change that answer. And I was confident. Given it only took me 2.5 hours to take the exam, but that's all right. I know people that were like, man, I was pressing the button right at 3:59.99. That's all right. But know what to expect and tell yourself what to expect. Because only once you lose your routine and confidence do you lose yourself. Most people I work with, that when they fail the exam, it's not they didn't know. It's that they saw a question they didn't know and then they forgot who they were and what they developed. You guys spend way too long studying and putting this information in the mind to second guess yourself ever. Like, honestly. Like, there are people in this study group that probably know these theories and stuff way better than I could ever even imagine. They probably know when Pavlov was born. That's all right. But if that's the way you want to study and that makes you feel comfortable, go for it. I'm all for it. But a big thing that people do is listen to what everyone else says and try to mirror it. But that's not you. I can tell you I studied for 2 weeks and you try it and then say, how does this happen? There's people that don't even study. They just walk in and pass it and they're like, that's me. I pass. I'm like, okay, superhuman. But that's just them. I don't judge. I don't perpetuate, or I don't try to be. I just did what I thought was right. So hope that answered your question. All right. So Phil, I was partly venting about my readiness for the exam on Monday, but I guess my question to you is, would you agree with me just doing questions until then? Because on the ASWB test I did today, they were mostly almost all reasoning and application. I just don't know if I should spend too much time on reviewing the contents. What do you think? So, with that, when people take the ASWB practice exam, I've noticed two particular things. it either inflates them to a point to where they feel like they're going to walk in the exam and destroy it, which could be dangerous, or they take it and it makes them question everything that they've done to this point, which is also dangerous. So my suggestion is to find what works for you. Meaning, if you want to do practice questions until that date and it makes you feel better, go for it. Monday's really soon, but if that's okay with you, go for it. If you want to look over more content, go for that. Like, this is your process. And for me to tell you, do practice questions, and that wasn't what you wanted to do, it's going to be disheartening. But if you're just asking me to so that I'll say it so you can do it, then you already know the answer. You don't need me to tell you. I'm just an average guy that that likes helping people, you know. My opinion is worth is just as much as the air that I breathe out of it. Everyone has breath. You know. So if that just works for you, then go for it. But do not let the ASWB practice exam determine what is going to be on your real exam. That will be scary, because that's a practice exam for a reason, and they don't change the questions ever. So if you went to someone has bought it twice and they're like, man, the questions were the same. Yeah, because they don't change it. You know, but that's okay. That's them. That's most people haven't seen those questions, so it's okay. But yes, get comfortable around something that you're comfortable with, which I guess is kind of like a given, but that's all right. That's good, Phil. I like how you did that. Thank you. I'm not sure what, but no, can you give us a listing? And hang on, that is tough for me to read. Can you give us a list in each category, like what you were just saying? I have DSM and it's a lot. 2.5, wow, failed to and failed. 347 and still failed. I've been studying no less than 5 hours a day for over a week and still don't feel like I know much. Cut back. If you have been studying 5 hours a day for a week and you don't feel like you know, take a week off and then come back and see what you know. And if you've gained something, sometimes people act like every single day is Thanksgiving. They just overindulge on information. It's not healthy. You need sometimes to digest it and make sure that you actually feel it. Because quantity of time does not equate to quality of time. Meaning, you put in a ton of hours, you may not be getting a whole lot out of any of the hours. You're just putting them in. Is the ASWB practice exam worth the money? So here's my honest opinion on that. If you are taking the exam to gauge if you're ready, don't do it. If you're trying to gauge a starting point and if your routine's on point, go for it. Because your result on the practice exam doesn't determine if you're ready. It doesn't determine how well you break down and analyze. It just shows that you were able to sit down for 4 hours, finish it, and get through it. Because some people get high scores on it and it deflates them. You know what I mean? Like but I'm also not saying not to. I've had people tooth and nail say, I'm doing it anyway. Go for it. It's not my cash. Cash it out if you want. 85 bones for it. But at the end of the day, it's literally yours. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but with anything we know on this planet, intentions is everything. Like if your intentions are to psych yourself up or hopefully reach for it to tell you that you got a high score so you're prepared for the exam, that exam you face in the exam room is a totally different beast. It's not like it's structured differently, but the questions are formatted in the way that it is because it's your exam. So no exam is similar. So that's why I don't really generalize like what to do. However, make sure the decision you make is something that you're okay with living with. Good luck on your exam Monday. Yeah. This will be my third time. I can't fail again. So my push to view the exam is to not view it at how many times you've taken it, because each exam is different. So each attempt is different. So I've had people that have had 4 first tries. Because if this was the same exam, you could say you failed it 4 times. But it's not the same exam. It's different questions, different format, different time, different person in the exam room. Because the person you are 90 days from now is totally different. You guys have seen it firsthand. Like, if you tracked what you're doing now and did it 90 days from now, your routine is probably different. Your sleep is probably different. You may look a little different. The friends you talk to may be a little different. The books you're reading, the podcasts you listen to, the music you're listening to, it's going to change. So thus, each exam attempt isn't like a sentence of like, I've done it 4 times. It's like, okay, you've had 4 first tries because it's your first attempt at the exam you're going to be facing in that room next time. Could you please explain Bowen's family system? I don't know how someone that hang tight. I don't know how I don't know the 8 concepts. It's overwhelming. Can you review when to refer? I'm not 100%. Yes, I would need an explanation as Bowen as well. Good night, working. What is the difference between systems? Sorry, I'm misspelling. Do you guys want to see Bowen's? Because that may take me like 30 minutes to explain. I was going to say, that's up to y'all. That is... That's going to be a totally different mode that I have to get into. Barbara, do you have a mic? Can you just go on YouTube because I don't know how to...
I'm sorry. Yes, I do. Like,
okay. So I just feel it's easier for me to communicate via that. So I guess what is going on? Like explain what you're experiencing.
with everything, I don't know. I think because I don't have insurance anymore, and like I'm not on my medication. It's just everything's so hard. It's like I can't even pass the exam. I can't get accommodations. And with the Medicaid that you mentioned, I don't qualify for it because my soon-to-be ex-husband, he was prior military. So they're saying that I should still, I guess, have insurance under him, and I really don't know. But like I've been since like my last year of grad school. I've been, going through a lot, and it's just hard to pass this exam without, the proper, you know, I'm not even taking care of myself as far as, not on my medication, not seeing, doctors therapists and stuff that I was seeing. It's just hard.
Mm-hmm. So are you seeking assistance like therapy, stuff like that?
Actually, no, I should be. But no, I don't have a therapist. I don't have, everything was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, like, I tried to get accommodations, and all they kept saying is I need a doctor's note, and I don't have a doctor's note or a letter or anything.
So when are you planning to take your exam?
I was hoping as soon as possible. I know in May I would have to reapply all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do it at least one more time before, I guess after a year, they make you reapply all over without passing.
Mm-hmm. My personal recommendation would not to be rush this process by any means. Truthfully. Like I can understand the sense of urgency, but like you said, you're not taking care of yourself, so the machine isn't operating the way that it should be. Like, taking care of yourself is going to start with that. Maybe that's finding ways to get back on your meds and stuff like that. Like somebody in the chat said the health department does it based on income. Reach out to resources in the community that are available to you, so that way you're supported as well as your best version of yourself when walking into the exam. I can understand like the angst and the impulsivity of it, but if you're not taking care of yourself as well as taking care of what's important, this exam,
Right.
it's just an exam at the end of the day, and you're the most important thing that you need to be taking care of, and that's what we're here for.
Right. I think it's because I have 3 kids myself, so I'm like, I have to pass the exam so I could financially support my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to like I've studied like all day, every day. I feel like it anyways when my kids aren't here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just overwhelmed myself, but I'm like, everything, it's so expensive. Everything, I'm like, I can't even, do this or that. Like with the study materials, everybody's saying, well, you're not studying it. You're studying yourself, and then you're still not passing. Then you're not studying the right information. But I'm like, what more? What more do I study?
So
But I think it's breaking it down. I know I've been trying to catch up on, all your YouTube videos and stuff like that, and it's helping, but I'm still like confused on how to pick out what, if it's application, recall and stuff like that. So I'm getting better, I know, but I just still, it's like, I feel like there's so much.
mm-hmm. How much support do you have at this moment? How much positivity are you having around you?
My family's like 40 something hours away, but
Mm-hmm.
not much at all.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where it needs to start. Like cutting out all of the negative people that are saying you aren't trying hard enough, because you are. You honestly are. I don't know you, but this 5-minute conversation, but you are trying hard enough. You have 3 kids. You said you're off your meds. You don't have insurance, and you're studying every single day. You are trying. Like recognizing that and giving yourself that credit is important, of saying, I am trying, I am doing this, and I'm going to give it my best shot. But I think before even considering getting into the exam, I think just getting right yourself is going to be important. And I wasn't kidding when I said, like, we're here to help you. So when you're...
Thank you. Sorry for taking away the study group. I
What'd
didn't
you
mean for
say?
that to happen.
No,
I
that's
said thank
okay.
you everyone for taking away from the study group.
No, this is everyone's study group. I don't think anyone in here minds, and if they do, I hope they're not rocking with me, because like this is what this is for. This is us to help each other and be there for each other. And when you're ready and you want to start studying and get right, get a hold of me. I'll let you in every study group that I'm holding until you take your exam. I wasn't
Yeah,
kidding.
you sent me the information on Skype already.
I know, I just
With the
mean
study.
continuously.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, I wasn't playing around. We're here. I don't think you articulated the severity of your situation. Like, I don't mind. I don't mind helping. I'm going to be here as much as I can. So as long as I'm hosting study groups, you're going to be loud. That's just how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Like, where I come from, we take care of our people and people that rock and support me, whether it's YouTube, whether it's the study groups, whether it's the tutoring. I'm with you guys. So yeah, that's just where I'm at. I don't feel like it was a mistake that we had this interaction and conversations, and yeah. So don't feel bad for taking time out of the study group, because that's what this is here for, and this is what people needed to hear and see and say. Because now we have 40 plus social workers ready to to help out. Like that's just where it's at, and that's why I'm so humbled and privileged to have such this community now, that we do support each other and understand situations. Any other questions or insights? Anyone?
Thank you all so much.
It's good to see we have Phil, who's very gracious. I just am. I have a heart, guys. If you have other people that are not supporting this much, reevaluate. Like, that's what I mean. People, I rock with it. It's not a mistake. Like, I need to hear that story. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, most people that have been rocking with me know my first step before studying at all is to remember where you came from and what you're going through and why you started. Honestly. Like, that is something that you need to remember, that you're doing this for more than just you. And if you're doing it for just you, maybe you need to reevaluate that, you know. Like, I do work a ton, but this is all for my family, honestly. I'd be all right. I live a minimal life, but I just need to make sure that everyone, and that's why I've created this family, so that we make sure everyone's okay, everyone's doing all right, and that we're there for each other. I had my first child at 15. That's heavy. It's a lot. It's rough, yeah. Yeah, I won't get super super deep on you guys, but thank you. How do you apply for accommodations? So that is where you go onto the website, and let me get it. Okay. I'm scared. This is my second time as well. It's scary. All right, hang tight. I'll get to that. Don't worry. So you go to the ASWB website, and then you go to testing accommodations, which is on this side here. So if we are going, I'm just going to copy this just in case I can't navigate back. So you go here, exam candidates, hit register. And then this top bar says testing accommodations. And this is where you have to quantify it. Is it a disability such as visual, hearing, anxiety, etc.? Health conditions, of course. And then second is English as a second language. And if that's the case, that is where you need to go and select based on the appropriate channel, depending on where you're at. And then here's like accommodations for a list. So you filled out here. So this is the form. And then this is like paper and pencil type accommodation. So that's how you do that. Most people don't know. So I should probably do a video on that, honestly. How to do that, because I feel like it's more and more becoming like a thing. Yeah, I'm scared. This is my second time as well. It's scary. Yes. So, biggest way to get over the fear of the exam. Just reflect on everything that you've overcome in your life and see how little this exam actually amounts to in that resistance. Honestly. Like, I always say like, oh yeah, I did it in 2 weeks and this and stuff, but I have a huge reason why, you know? So those that have been rocking with me know this, but I only went to college because one of my favorite teachers went to Central Michigan University. I live in Michigan. So I was like, wow, if I go to college, I'll be like her. I'll be super cool and empower people. And then I didn't know anything about college. So I get there and I don't even know how to write papers. So the whole first year, I went to the writing center every single day and learned how to write every single day. Never failed. I'd pick the different people at the writing center. And then eventually I was like, okay, I got the swing of this thing. But then I always get reminders of this, of like, Phil, you haven't escaped, you know, like that's just where I'm at. Like my parents still live in a trailer. Like we aren't well off. Like we still go through struggles. Like those that have truly been rocking with me know that my mom's health is not doing too great. Like it worries me every day, but that's why I don't stop. That's why I'm doing a study group at 9 to 10 p.m. Like my why is bigger than this. That's why I don't mind helping, because I know what it feels like to be disadvantaged and underprivileged and not have resources and not have accommodations and not have freedom that other people would otherwise have. So I basically am manifesting the confidence that I had to manifest in myself into you guys. Like you guys are more powerful than you think. Like you guys are helping the most vulnerable people on this planet and still staying sane. Like we walk into offices and be like, man, let's help these people that other people wouldn't help. And then we just do it, you know, like, so that's what I mean, like reflect on that every single day. And that's why people are like, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. This exam isn't going to kill you, you know? Well, the only thing that has to die is your doubt in yourself and the chains and prisons you guys put yourself in. Honestly. You know, like the negativity we breed in ourselves is way more dangerous than this exam could ever be. Ever. So my challenge every time is in my videos, and I think people think I'm just being cute, but I'm like, do something kind for yourself. Say nice things to yourself. Because how simple it is to just look up in the mirror and say, you are enough. You are great. You are powerful. You are amazing. How easy that is. But how little people actually do that. And then we look for other people to do it for us, and then they don't, and then we get mad. We expect it out of people when we don't even expect it out of ourselves. Like, honestly. And that's why people are like, man, how come people that you work with are successful? And that's because we build a relationship, and I tell people things that they should have been told their entire lives. Honestly. Like, and I find it so easy because I have to do this stuff to myself every single day. Like how crazy it is to be able to help so many people. But then be the only person that's like really doing something, honestly. Meaning not like people aren't doing anything, but the amount of pressure it takes to be like the only person that's been to college in your family, that's ever gotten a master's degree in your family, that's made money. Like getting a check and be like, whoa, that's crazy, man. And then being like, I know this is a lot to some people, but this is just scratching the surface. Like I can't even like give back to people that I want to give back to, honestly. But we have to remember the perspective that people are coming from. So it's okay to be afraid. Give yourself permission. Walk in the exam and say, you're right. You should be afraid. Like no one that you know has ever experienced this or had this much pressure, or had this much prestige or achievement. But it's okay. Give yourself permission and say, man, that person over there might not be worried, but I should be because of these reasons. The more permission you give yourself, the more power you have over yourself. And I'm with you. You have to remind yourself of these things. We forget. We're like, man, I didn't pass this exam and I should first try. Maybe it wasn't your exam. I've had people I've had people that I've worked with personally, and I was like, man, they're going to kill this exam. Like, bet. No questions. Like, I was starting that day, and then they're like, I didn't pass. I was like, I was hurting. I was hurting more than they were hurting because I was like, this doesn't make sense. But it does make sense in the scheme of maybe that wasn't the exam attempt, and there was something in that 90 days that they had to learn, maybe about themselves, about their situation, because there's a lesson in any hardship, honestly. Like, but we don't remind ourselves of these things. We just like thinking, oh, I'm less than because of this. That's one attribute. You guys are all powerful social workers helping people. Like, this is nuts to me that we have this many people mobilized and helping other people, but we're not helping ourselves, honestly. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy how many people, if we treated people the way that we treated the people we care about, that may not even be giving us the reciprocity that we need from it. Like, how much energy is wasted? Like, just think about that for a second. Like, how much energy are we wasting that we be giving to ourselves and know that it'd be worthwhile? Honestly. So that's why I tell people, make this experience prepping for this exam a positive one. Because the more positive and comfortable and confident you are, the easier it is. What sucks is when your employer isn't flexible, is what makes the pressure even worse for me. You'll be able to find another job. And I don't say that like sheepishly, like, man, you'll find another job. I mean, like, if you are in an environment right now working and they're trying to promote you and make you feel good and push you to be a better version of yourselves, why are you there? Honestly. Like, if you are in an environment where they're like, you fail, we're firing you, why stay? I'd be like, all right, I'll put my 2 weeks in and fire myself. Like, I ain't playing with it. Like, I was talking with somebody that I've been tutoring with, and they're like, man, I think I'm gonna lose my job if I fail my exam. I was like, if they're a worthwhile employer, it doesn't matter if you pass the exam or fail the exam. They'll find a way to utilize you because you're talented, you're gifted, and you have the skills needed to dominate in this field. Like, legitimately. If my boss, this isn't my boss, like, my boss is super cool and flexible, and that's why I stay there. Like, when I told her I was taking my test, she was like, all right, go ahead, take it. We're right here with you. And you need to have a boss that's standing behind you and that's like, I think you're more powerful than you think so. And it's trying to enable you and teach you this world. And like the thing is like, if your job is like, man, we're going to fire you if you don't get licensed, there's other jobs. Honestly. Like, if my boss, man, she would never do this, but if my boss walked up to me and was like, Phil, we're firing you today, I'd be like, why? And if they're like, this licensure paper, I'd be like, you've seen what I can do. Stop playing with me. This little paper ain't going to tell you that I'm credentialed or not. We can have someone else do it, you know, but like, you just have to remind yourself of how powerful you are, what skills you have, what talents you have. And with that, you're sought out. Like, you're surviving in a field that most people get out of immediately. Honestly, the life of a social worker in the field is pretty low. You know what I mean? Like, and people are saying the exact same thing I am in the chat. So I ain't playing around. I'm not lying. Like, Felder just said, I lost my job as well. Had no insurance. Found a better one with insurance and they treat me well. I'm not playing with it. I can't make this stuff up. You know? And if you guys are in Michigan, I'd try hiring you, but that's just my kind heart. Instead of keeping focused on the positive, can you post your Skype again? I was trying to get on the account made for the group and Kim, it's just locked. I had another one. So if anyone's interested, here is my Skype. I don't really get on it unless I'm adding people to the study group, honestly. But that's my studies. And then those that rock with me for a minute, there's my email too. I lost my job. It's hard to hear to find a job if you're not licensed in this town. That's where you may have to get like kind of like tactful, meaning finding opportunities where they might not otherwise be there. Like this field is based on relationships, honestly. And that's why connecting with people is so important. Like, I'm sure if you said what city you're in, there's probably peeps that can hook you up with a job quick. Honestly, I'm just being real. Like, I've had people that are like, man, you ever come to New York? I got you a job. I'm like, man, I'm cool in Michigan, but I appreciate it. But that's because we're all trying to help people at some capacity. So if you need a job, I'm sure there is some. You may have to get creative with it and write a grant and create your own job. Phil's right, that job isn't worth it and something much better will come and we will pass. My job told me that if I didn't pass, I'd lose my job. That was 8 years ago. However, I had to get a seat to satisfy them. They're not going to fire you, honest to God. And if they do, there is a plan, honestly. Like most times, what we think is a hardship is a blessing in disguise. Like, truthfully. Like, what you think is a hardship today is a blessing. You'll look back and say, I thank God that I'm here. Like me doing these study groups, this was just a dream that worked out. But it came from me being like, I might as well do it anyway. Pass or fail, the videos will stay there and whoever watches them, they got blessed. But it ended up working out. Now people are like, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just an almost 26-year-old lad, like that is having to have an opportunity and get blessed by every single one of you for wanting to just be here. Like, just reflect on that for a moment. Like, I remember when no one watched my videos. I would pray that I got 10 views. Now we have people that are like, what do you think, man? And I'm like, it's up to you. Like, you know your life. I don't know it. And it may not have to be like knowledge that you're giving people. Maybe it's just like an ear to listen, you know? Like, the most valuable thing is just presence, honestly. Like, you being in the room is enough for someone to be like, that's powerful. Because how many people are wishing that they had someone like you in their life, honestly? Like, it's nuts. Like, we need to start treating ourselves like the powerful people that we are. I cannot afford to pay for a tutor because I'm unemployed. I'm struggling out with taking the exam. What do you think that you'd get out of a tutor? 22 years, you're senior, and I'm so appreciative to you for all you do. Thank you. This exam will not take me. April's my time. I'll pray for you too. You've been rocking with me for a minute, and I appreciate it. Some people said up to 6 years, and some said up to 7. Say a little bit more about that. Valerie, change your mindset. It'll be okay. Hey, Phil, thank you so much for your time and learn with that. I have to go home for my little girl. I'm at library. Thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to be putting this on a private YouTube link for you guys, so it'll work out. You know,
I wish I knew about your groups back when I first graduated. I just learned about the Facebook page and all your videos. So I wish, I'm glad to, be on here now, but I wish I did this months ago.
But you didn't know. And you can't blame
Right.
yourself for not knowing. Because we're all learning every single day. You know, like that's just what we're doing. I don't know everything. No one knows everything. But one thing I do know is once you know something, utilize it. Like once you have a resource, utilize it. There are so many times that I'll be like, if you guys need anything, just reach out. And no one does. It's wild. There's some people that do, but utilize the resources you have. Like there are so many people in this study group right now that would be willing to help you out. They probably have hella study materials that they'd just be like, you want to look over them, you can, you know. So did I. That's all good. You missed by 9 points. You got it next time. Yeah, don't ever let the score that you got your previous exam bring you down, because each exam is different, honestly. What's a Facebook group called? So there's a couple. So there's this one and this one. I had to push my because bad weather. I got. Dude, I haven't seen you in a minute. How you been? Honestly. Several people have sent me materials. Yeah, good. Good. I was worried about that too because I missed it by 26 points. Don't emphasize on that. Bury it. Bury it. Because that 26-point exam attempt is nowhere near this next exam attempt. How do I know? Because you're here and you're working on yourself. You're getting knowledge, you're getting experience, you're getting feedback. That 26 points was just a warm-up. That was a warm-up. Warm-up in stages. Great, just studying. Good. I was wondering. I thought you might have took your exam already. Any other questions that people have? Well, I'm doing more than burying it. I'm sending it to the fire pit. Might need it. It's cold out here. Yeah, you had no new material and I have all the materials so far. When the study group came out, we'll do study group. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. I worry about my people, but I don't blame you. Anything else that anyone is struggling with or would like insight or anything like that? I guess how many people are here just waiting to see what I say? Oh, the acronym. I'm so sorry. I'll get to that. Unless I keep up with you. I check you got when you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Community type questions. Okay. So let's sizzle with it. Where am I at? Boop. Okay. So the acronym: safety, feelings, assess, refer, educate, advocate, facilitate, intervene. This is the bread and butter. So within each consideration is what you're going to get out of it. So safety is going to be any concerns that you can imagine that are going to prevent the person. So this is abuse, neglect, medical, substance use, or medical persistence, anything like that. Feelings is what the client believes is going on, as well as what they view their situation. Assessing is what you think, getting objective data and clinical expertise on that. Referring as if you don't have expertise or feel like a resource would be beneficial. Educate, you're providing information on what the client would expect from their services depending on the referral source, your agency, and or in particulars of that. Advocate, facilitate, intervene, all depend on who's doing the service for it. Advocate is when the client does it to themselves. Facilitate is when another professional does it. And intervene is when the therapist does it themselves. So that's the acronym. Brief, quick, one-on-one tutoring. I get more into it and of how to apply it. Plus my videos get into it, but it's more difficult when there's a lot of people to tailor it. I'm using your style plus Therapist Development Center. Thanks for the YouTube videos. You're welcome. How often do you do study groups? Every single Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I try not to be distracted, so right now my focus will be study unless you put out new study group info. Okay. Like I said, I don't ever push anybody to join my stuff. Honestly. I feel like some people do already have the stuff, and that's great. I called for you to see, says you're not online. Oops, I was freaking. Oh yeah. So my Skype's closed, by the way. I didn't want any background. How much are your study groups? So for the 2 hours, it's $30, and that gets you the study materials and the recorded videos. Can you give me on hang tight? Can you give me an idea how your study group goes about? So the way that the study group goes is you would be in a Zoom session like this. I cover a particular topic of interest. So like this Sunday's diversity consideration. Next Sunday is Freudian theory, I think. And then the weekend after that is DSM. We haven't specified the disorders, but the study group dictates what topics in particular we cover on. So I don't pick them. So it'd be like this. I'd be going over a particular topic. You had any questions, you would type them in. And then after the study group, I do a question and answer like this for like an hour, hour and a half type deal. And then we go from there.
Okay.
So that is what that format looks like. And if you're interested, just send me an email and I'll try my best to get back. But keep in mind I work 3 jobs, so if I don't email you super quick, it's no shade. It's just I'm a busy guy. I try my best to dedicate as much as I can. So any other questions that people have? I'll see you tomorrow for my... Okay. Yeah, we're still good. Don't worry. Hang tight. How many days ahead of time do we need to let you know for the study group? So my suggestion is at least the morning of Sunday. So that way if you send payment, it's so much harder for me to direct the link because it's only me that sends out the links and answers the emails. So like, for example, if I'm doing this study group right now, we've been rocking with it for like 2 hours. So that's 2 hours that I haven't answered emails or anything like that. So yes, it's preferred at least a day in advance.
No, I think I'll do the next 2 days.
So that way I can organize and gather it. But if anyone's interested, the way that you get a hold of that is just send me an email. I'll figure it out from there. And any other questions? We're still rocking pretty strong with 30 plus peeps. Thanks for the support, guys. This is crazy. When it comes Hang on, my eyes are pretty wounded. When it comes close to time to take exam, I have to distance myself because sometimes others can give me anxiety when they overthink things, and I'm trying not to be caught up getting anxious. This works for me, no offense to anyone. This is just works for me. Yeah, I can dig it. I can dig it. If you feel like something's not adding to your situation, cut it out. And that's not just around this exam, that's in general. If you feel like something's in your life and it's not benefiting you or filling you up, or it's not equal, cut it out. Like, that's just what it is. Like, you need to benefit yourself. You need to look out for yourself. And you need to be honest with yourself what you truly need. Yeah, thank you for coming. Have a nice night as well. But yeah, that's just what it is. Like, if something's not adding to you, it's taken away from you, honestly. It's just that's just what it is, you know? See you tomorrow for study group. Yeah. Any other questions? Good night. Good night to you as well. Thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you for your support. Honestly, you've been rocking with me for a long time, holding me down, and I appreciate everything you do, Kim. Thank you all. What's your advice for learning the community, indirect macro type items for this exam? That is where this is the dangerous strategy. The community is just basically a big client. Meaning the way that you would view an individual client is the same way that you would view the community. Like, if you were going to consider what you should do first in the community, and the first thing you're going to do with the client is you'd want to establish a rapport and gather what the need is. And then from there, develop a plan. But yeah, that's the trick with that. Any other questions in particular? Thank you, Phil. You're awesome like always. So you have a great night. Yeah, see you, Addie. I'll see you tomorrow. Any other questions? Great. I'm done. Alexis, you are playing too much. That's funny. Oh man. Thanks, Phil. Have a good night. I test this Wednesday, so send up some prayers for a fellow Michigan native. Way of Battle Creek, now living. Go blue. Go blue, go blue. I'll be praying. I will. I will be praying. Go blue. That's where I went to school. Hail into the victors. Well, it seems like everyone's lucky. It's a blessing. It is a blessing that I was able to go. Does anyone else have any other questions, or do you guys just want to shut it down? Good night. Okay. So if no one else has any other questions, I can shut it down. You're welcome. You're welcome. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. And I'm going to end the recording.